Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
This is Ordinary to Badass, episode number 10. In this episode, I interview Shelly Pordea. Shelly is an author, and she has written a trilogy. Quite an accomplishment. In this episode, we talk about how Shelly stays motivated by setting alarms on her phone, her mantra, which is love in and love out, and how not to let other people define the story of who you are and what you say to yourself. Tune in, because you're going to love it. But hold on a second. Before we start the episode, I want you to know, I am currently working on a blog post which is going to blow your mind. It is all about how you can find your passion and how other people have found theirs. So go ahead and go to ordinarytobadass.com and hit subscribe, and that way you'll get the weekly newsletter or updates on blog posts. Like I said, you're not going to want to miss this one. With that, let's go ahead and get to the episode. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I'm glad you're here. Today's guest is Shelly Pordea. Shelly, thank you so much for being on the show. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself to be ordinary or a badass?
Well, I think I am a little bit of both, but I lean toward the badass.
Nice. Have you always felt that way?
Well, I think so. I think I have always just realized that I lived a little bit of a privileged life, but yeah, just, kind of the ordinary everyday things creep in, and you have to remind yourself that you're a badass.
Nice. So first, will you go ahead and share with our audience a short bio about yourself so we can get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah, sure. So I am an author. I have published a full trilogy at this point. I just released my third book in the trilogy. But for my career, I was a teacher for the most part. I lived overseas, and I was a teacher and then an academic director for an international school. About 6 years ago, when my children were all teenagers, we moved back to the States to kind of offer them some normalcy and some of the education programs that they have here in America, to take advantage of that. I am married to a Romanian, so that's where we lived. And as I came to the States, I realized that the education system was a lot different than when I left. So I did work in administration again here in the States for a little while, but I kind of just got not bored, but there was a time where I just really felt like I was stifling all the creativity that I had the freedom to explore overseas. And so I picked up a book again that I had started actually, and I decided to publish, and I got the bug, I think, of entrepreneurship and like, why don't I just live my dreams, if not now, when? And so I went for it.
Nice. So what did you teach?
I taught English and creative writing, and then it was a small international school. So at different points throughout the years, I taught different grade levels. But for the most part, I was in charge of the English program and the English as a second language program, or I should say as an alternate language, because most of our children spoke, English as a third or fourth language. But yeah, so I did that. And then high school English and creative writing was the two classes, I guess, that I did not give up when I moved into administration. I really enjoyed those. High schoolers and, writing and English grammar. I'm kind of a nerd like that.
So how did you realize that you were stifling your creativity, and what led you to change?
Well, there wasn't a lot of freedom in my role that I had taken on here. It was an administration, and it was within a church organization that had like a whole preschool program. And so I was in charge of all of that. And preschoolers were never like my thing, even though they became my favorite when I was working with them. They just like magical little creatures. And after dealing with all these high schoolers for so many years and so much drama and the things that our teenagers go through these days, it's overwhelming sometimes. So like a preschool catastrophe, I can handle. I will change all of your clothing and I will help you, not melt down because of this toy. Those seem like really inviting to me. However, the system was so structured and I didn't have a voice really. And it was just one of those like, I'm not used to this. I wasn't bound at all in my career overseas. I had, worked for a boss who had utmost respect for me, and I could just come in and be like, hey, can I do this? And he'd be like, sure. So it's one of those situations where you don't know what you have until you lose it.
Right.
And I was not in, that same creative environment. And I just really was like, I can't live this way. I knew that about myself. I always had a side project. I was always working on this or that or creating that, and people would just be like, what are you doing? But for me, it just gives me life, So I knew that I was not going to be able to live that way forever. And I was turning 41. That was the thing. Like, I realized for some reason decades are significant to me in my life. And so I'm just like, I cannot spend another decade making excuses for why I am not doing anything that brings me joy. So
Right.
Yeah.
So did you ever imagine yourself being an author?
Yeah, I always wrote. So writing has always been a practice for me. And being a teacher, it's not a long stretch before you get to like writer. Oh, well, that makes sense. But I would always like, even in my classes, when I would teach creative writing or poetry or whatever it might be, I would take on the assignment. One time in my English, well, every year that I taught it, in my English classes, when they had to have a report on something, I would study a new thing and write a report just so that I wouldn't lose, my own craft in the process. So I remember once when I was young, very young, probably like 8 or 10, and I wrote a thank you note to somebody, and they complimented the way I wrote it, that you should be a writer. And then in 6th grade, I wrote my first creative writing story, and my 6th grade teacher, told me, well, first of all, she scolded me because she's like, I don't think that you put the time in at the end that you put in at the beginning of this story. Well, she was right, because I forgot that I hadn't finished it and it was due that day. So I just kind of like, and they all lived happily ever after, like.
Right.
Yeah, but she was another one who kind of was like, you have a gift. You should lean into that. You should cultivate your craft a little. And of course, as a 6th grader, sure, Mrs. Michaels. I mean,
But I think that's important too, because the stuff that we say to our kids or the kids that are around us, it can have life-changing effects on them or something they remember how many years later.
Yeah, that's so true, because I don't think that I thought about that moment until after I decided I was going to be an author. I'm going to publish. People started asking me, well, when did you start writing? I'm like, I've always written,
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. That's amazing. What we can instill in children and even in people with just a passing word, like
Totally.
The first memory, right? The first memory I have is because somebody complimented a thank you note I wrote them.
Yeah. Small things have such a big impact on our lives, especially as kids. You can really shape a kid's future.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about your wins. Share with us what you are most proud of accomplishing.
Yeah. Wow. That's a hard one for me. I feel like I should say being a mom or, but I'm probably not going to say that because I like to think that my kids are their own people.
Yeah.
But really in my accomplishments, I really feel like I'm at the point where I'm living my dream. I have finished a trilogy and it's out in the world and I'm trying to get it to more people. And that's really just, it feels amazing pursuing your dream. So I'm super proud of myself for that.
So at 41, you didn't feel that way, right?
Great.
So how long did it take you to start feeling like, okay, I'm hitting my groove, or I'm feeling like I'm living my dream now?
I think 3 years, like it's been the whole process of when I started, and then I set a goal to finish all three in 3 years. And so once that was done, I really, at the end, I felt like there was a monkey on my back almost, like this is really hard and I don't think I'm going to make it, until I proved to myself that I did. Yeah.
Which is actually pretty awesome, the 3-year thing, if you think about it, because you had 41 years of living a life that maybe you weren't passionate about. And then in 3 years, it's completely changed and you're living your dream life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't say that I didn't have, like, I had so many things that I was passionate about before, but like you said, it's just, there's a difference when you have a dream that people think is far-fetched, or you have told yourself that is, and then you step into that you didn't understand before that it could be this good.
Right.
Yeah.
So you talked to us about what you're most proud of accomplishing and how you're living your dream life. What is something most people don't know about what it took to accomplish that moment?
Oh gosh. I think that people assumed that it was really easy to walk away from like the corporate type setting, administration and the paycheck that would come in, and because it looks like, oh well, she's living her dream life. Well, my definition of that does not have a dollar amount associated with it. So like if people were to see my bank account, they would be like, well, how can you say you're as happy with less? And I'm just so much more fulfilled in what I'm doing. Now I plan on getting that bank account to match at one point or exceed. And it's on its way, but it's a hard journey. This is not a hobby. I think that really is what I'm getting at, is that it did start out as like, I'm still working full time and I'm doing this thing on the side. And now that's how I define myself. And it took me a while. It was probably a year before I called myself a writer, even after I published my first book.
Yeah, I think that's so funny how that happens. Even for me, like I was running, but I would never call myself a runner. It wasn't until I completed my first marathon that I was like, maybe I'm a runner. But, it still it takes a while sometimes to actually admit or be able to say what you are.
Yes. If I can run a full 5K without stopping, I will call myself a runner. I'm just saying.
I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, I think I didn't run at all before the marathon, or until I started training for it. That was my first race I had run. But it's just kind of one of those things we do to ourselves. We always put the stakes out further. When I do this, then I'll be that,
Yeah. And it's the opposite. I think it works the opposite way. You tell yourself you are, and that is how you become.
Totally. Because then your mind starts to believe it if you just keep saying you are that. So yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your struggles.
Okay.
Tell us about a time when you gave up, but now you wish you wouldn't have.
Oh gosh, yes. So I gave up on music. That is kind of my first love. And I stopped piano lessons when I was 14. And I was really at the cusp of being able to be a proficient piano player. And I think that moment changed the trajectory of my interests and my career, which I don't have complaints about now, but at the same time, it's just like one of those regrets that, oh, if only I would have put the time in. But I wanted to, have a social life and play basketball. And my parents were like, okay, so we won't have to pay $16 an hour in 1988 for you to be, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Can you share with us a story about one of the hardships you have faced to get to where you are now?
Yeah. So I think that for me in life in general, since the time I was in my early 20s till now, the whole path of finding my own place has been, I think, the biggest challenge. I always felt like I didn't fit in. And so I moved overseas when I was 23. And, being taken from one culture to another and then trying to adapt. My personality is always like, I want to make sure everybody's comfortable at the expense of myself. And so that's probably, I would say, like my biggest struggle, even now, to understand that I can step into my own self and I don't have to fit in, because the moment I show up is the moment everyone feels comfortable,
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. So based on our conversation before we started, I believe you're married and have children. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you ever dealt with societal norms or expectations related to marriage or children, anything like that?
Oh gosh, of course. Yeah. There's always an expectation. And I'm married to a man who is a pastor. He's a pastor of missions and outreach at our church. And so, that's a whole other level of
Yeah, I bet.
expectation. But yeah, certainly as a mom, we're just kind of, it's assumed that we deal with mom guilt, and we always put somebody else first. And like I said, especially with my personality type that wants to make sure everybody's comfortable, moms can kind of get lost in that. And I write, like, my novel starts out from that perspective of this woman finding herself at 28 years old and understanding that she knows nothing about who she is outside of being a wife or a mom. So that's, yeah, I think it's something that a lot of mothers, and even like, you can switch that up and like say, what if she was 28 years old and, was never married, didn't have any children? That's another set of things that, society will pressures that they will put on women. And I think women have such a hard time dealing with all these expectations that doesn't seem that men have to deal with as much.
Yes. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
So first, what's your novel that you wrote?
Yes. So the series is called Tracing Time. That is the title of the first book. And then it goes into Chasing Shadows. And the third book is Forging Fate. So if you look at the the book titles, you will kind of follow my own journey of, I was experiencing a sudden loss. My dad had passed away suddenly. And that writing process just was a balm to my soul. And I needed an outlet to process some of that grief. And it was based on a dream that I had. This woman met this man, and, it became a real story as it progressed. I was trying to trace back these moments in time to see, how could I capture those again? And I came to the realization that moments we always have with us because we have memories. And then the next novel is Chasing Shadows. But if we spend too much time in those, we are simply chasing shadows of the past. And then the last one is Forging Fate. And I really feel like there's a time in life where you just make your own way. And like, you forge through whatever it takes to go through that process. So that's what the novels are.
Very cool. So did that grief of losing your dad, did that change you at all, or put things in perspective about life and what you wanted to accomplish?
Yes, for sure. So my dad was kind of my biggest cheerleader, my mom and dad both, but they just have always supported me. And at the same time, I feel like I was always performing for them. So as that was kind of taken away, that there was no accolades from my dad, who, he was a prolific writer. He, in the early 2000s, was offered a book deal for his poetry because he was publishing online. And so he was like one of the pioneers of that. And like, that was always intimidating for me.
Yeah.
And so I would share some stuff with him and we would have this little banter, but I never saw myself as being able to be as good as he was. And when that was stripped away, it was like, that was the only answer I had, was I have to write. So yeah, it definitely changed me. It changed everything I think about life. He died at 58. I was so young. And so it was something that showed me that life is short. What people think about you, we will always care. Always. I will always care what somebody else thinks about me. but it doesn't have to define me. Like, oh, I heard a quote by Les Brown recently. And he said, someone else's story, or sorry, nope, that's not right. He said, someone else's definition of you does not have to be your story. And that is like, that. Yes, it's so true. And I think that we all do it, you know, like I want to be whatever it is that I want to be when I grow up because my dad is that, or because my mom is that, you know, and we can't help it. It's not, you know, a bad thing that we do these things. It's just that we have to come to a point in our life where we realize this is who I am because it's my story. Yeah.
Yep. And I think a lot of times other people's opinions of you or what you're doing is really based on their own experience, not based on really what you're doing. It's just based on how they've experienced life.
Absolutely. I've learned so much from my children in that, right?
Right.
Like you can't help but have some expectations for them and like guidelines and whatever it is, especially if you want some sense of sanity in your house. But at the same time, to let go as phases come, I think is the most valuable thing that you can give your kids.
Hard, but valuable.
Hard, but valuable. And I think I learned that from my parents, though. My mom is funny because she'll joke with me and she'll be like, well, I want to be like Shelly when I grow up, because she treated me as I would accomplish things. She treated me as I was as if I was an adult. Like I am an adult and she treats me that way. You know, there's so many, I have friends who are in their 40s and 50s whose parents still scold them for things, you know, and like, I never got that from my parents, and I never want to be that for my kids, even though I probably do cross the line sometimes.
Don't we all?
Yeah, well.
So do you think that gave you more freedom and independence then?
I think so. Yeah, I really do. I think it's always battle of the mind almost, you know, your power lies within your mindset. And so for so many years, I did tell myself, well, this is acceptable and this will be how you please. So whether or not they had those certain expectations, it's like you said before, people view you through their lens and their story and project onto you. So, you know, I know that I have done that as well, but it has made me believe that I can accomplish things.
Great. So let's switch and talk a little bit about mindset.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mindset and how that has led to your badassery.
Well, my mindset is yes, I can usually. I don't usually look at something and be like, oh, I could never do that. I tend to be the type of person who says, yes, I can try it. Like I might not be the greatest at it, but I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't work, I'm like, scrap that and go to the next. Which is why I think that for me, it was hard in the environment when I said I didn't have a lot of freedom. It was because it was like, well, no, this is the way it's done. And I'm like, yeah, but can we try this? No. Like,
right.
Oh, okay, why? You know, like I always have to try something. So yeah, that's definitely my mindset.
Probably part of the creativity thing or being a creative, you know, you want room to kind of adjust or change things if you want to.
Yeah. And if it's crap, then we'll scrap that and try something else. You know, artists paint over canvases all the time, guys. It's fine.
Totally agree. Do you have any tips or tricks to help us improve our mindset?
I think that for me, one of the biggest things is to, well, first of all, have a practice. Like, you know, you have to decide that you're going to try. Like with the yes, I can thing, it wasn't that I was born with that. I think it was cultivated throughout my life. My parents, you know, just did instill that in me. And I was in good schools and had a lot of people in my life who spoke that into me. But as an adult, and, you know, even as a teenager, you get into those spaces where people start to become competitive and they want to break you down, and they're not doing all this. Everybody's working a 9-to-5. I worked a 9-to-5 for 20 years, right? But if you tend to move out of those circles and you feel yourself surrounded with kind of the no, you can't, people move out of them. like get that for me has been invaluable in this journey that I'm on right now, with changing careers and doing, building my own business. That has been huge for me. I got to get out of the circle that says, no, you can't. That's why, like I said, literally had to walk away, is like, well, I want to try this. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like negative people, or people constantly saying no, or just kind of energy vampires. They just suck your energy, it's amazing what a supportive group can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share one of your greatest mindset hacks for confidence and self-esteem?
Yes. Well, I guess a hack would really be I have, like a Pinterest board. I know it sounds a little cheesy, but I have a happy thoughts Pinterest board and that's part of my practice. Like in the mornings, I'll get up and I journal, and I get onto Pinterest and I just read a few quotes for the day. I love Morgan Harper Nichols. If you follow her on Instagram, she's got amazing poetry on really pretty art. And that's just something that inspires me for my mindset, to just remind myself, because we all have those thought demons, right? We're going to like come and be like, oh, but you're really not that great.
Right.
Like, there are better writers than you, or whatever, it is that I'm working on.
Yes. It's so easy to get sucked into that trap too. And I find if I let myself do it once, then I'll let myself do it again,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you have to learn to give yourself a little grace. Like when somebody says every day, before, I remember just like really having a reaction to that. It's like, oh my gosh, every day. But I've learned to be able to take that and say, yeah, every day, because every day I'm breathing, right? So I can take something every day, something positive, but I don't have to have my optimal day every day, right?
Yeah, that's not realistic. It's just not life to have the best day ever, every single day.
Right.
I mean, you could aim for it, but it doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
So do you have a mantra or meditation practice?
I do. So that is part of my practice as well. In the mornings, I will meditate. Usually I'm not into the super long ones. I mean, sometimes I'll do them, but just a few minutes in the morning. Like I said, with journaling, coffee, that is definitely
Mine too.
part of that. But yeah, I do have the meditative practice there in the morning, just to kind of get myself into the proper mindset.
So it kind of sounds like you have a morning routine. Is it right? And can you walk us through that?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I start off with coffee. That is my first thing. I make my son lunch. He is my child who is still living at home and in high school. And so I'll make him lunch. And then I go and sit in my little spot and I meditate while he's taking a shower. I have my meditation, my journal out, and then I have my little Pinterest board, like I said, and I just kind of look through those things and set myself in a place where I feel like I am good to go for the day.
What does your meditation look like? Is it like just quiet time? Do you use an app? What do you do?
I do use an app. Sometimes it is just like music and prayer. And then most days it's with the app Insight Timer. So there are just a few people on there that have some like 10-minute ones that I really enjoy. And whatever I'm dealing with that day, sometimes I, suffer with headaches and whatnot. So I'll just pick whatever I'm going through that day, or just, a positive mindset.
Is that a free app then?
It is. Yeah. There's a paid part of it, but it's a free app to download, and you can access, anywhere from like 5 to 45 minutes of, depending on what they offer. So like some of their premium content you do have to pay for.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about tips to help women out. If you could share one tip that you wish every female knew about, what would it be?
Wow, one tip that every female should know about. I think that worthiness gets a little bit of a bad rap because everybody will say, oh, well, you're worth it, or, just be you. And there's not a stepping into of like, not just ownership, but responsibility of that. Like, if I believe about myself that I am worthy, I'm created with a purpose, I implicitly must believe that about you. Right. And so I think that we need to remember the wholeness of life, that we are worthy, we can step up into our power, and we need to meet other people with a respect for their worthiness. And it just, for some reason, I think it seems to get lopsided sometimes. I think I forgot to mention my actual mantra. So I do have a mantra. I say only love in and only love out to myself when, multiple times throughout the day, but it came because I was going through a time where there was a girl who just seemed to dislike me. Right. And I just couldn't figure it out. Like I said, I do have this personality where I'm like, oh, everybody has to be comfortable. Everybody, if something's wrong, I can't live in that tension for very long. It really just gets to me. And so I would rather confront and say, hey, let's work this out and get rid of that problem than live in that perpetual tension. And I just couldn't figure it out with this girl. And then I had played mind games with myself, like, no, it's just you. You're just reading into things. You're just being unrealistic. You're just being judgmental, And I had played these games for a while, and I saw her in a parking lot in my rear view mirror. And I used to have a decal on the back of my car, and I saw her look to see if it was me and then book it into the store, like running so she wouldn't have to see me. And I was like, dude, I was right. Like, what did I do? Like, I couldn't figure it out. And I realized then that whatever it is, I don't have space for anything outside of love. And I'm not going to give her anything but love. Does that make sense? And I wish that we as women, whatever it is, whatever it is about my personality, whatever I've done to offend her that, she can't voice, I can approach it with love, because it seems like we as women get a little catty sometimes, or we get a bad rap, right? So it's like we can't win for losing at times. And I just feel like if we all just knew that we can approach each other and the world with love in and love out, whatever that means to you, your boundaries are going to be different to mine. That is so much more powerful. I think it goes so much further than, just flippantly saying, you be you, girl, or you go, girl. That's not the same thing as support. That's encouragement, and we all need it. But supporting each other really looks like, accepting the love that I can get from you and then giving that back out, and whatever that looks like.
So I agree with you. Like, I think we need to support our girls or support our friends,
Yeah.
But what do you think about some relationships are just not healthy? Some friendships are just not healthy.
Yes.
And so if you're constantly loving out, that might not be healthy for you.
Yeah. So what I mean by that, let me define that for you then. Like, I will never be this girl's friend. Like, I can't even right now define her as that. She's more of an acquaintance. And what I mean by only love in and only love out is that I was allowing space for whatever animosity she had against me to enter. I closed that off. Like, if she still has that, that's not on me.
Right.
Right. So the boundaries are very clear. I'm not going to have coffee with her. We're not going to be buddies. I don't have to have her in my life other than we run in some of the same circles. Mm-hmm. And the only space I have for anything, whether she's giving off love or hate, is love. So if she's giving nothing but hate, I don't have space for her at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And yeah. I've come to the realization probably in the last year, other people's opinions of me are none of my business. Like, yes. I can only be the best person that I can be, but I can't affect how other people are going to think of me. I can only just do me, like do the best that I can. Of course, if it's a friend, I'm going to ask for clarification if they're upset or something. But if people are going to be mad at me for an unknown reason, that's on them. Kind of like you said.
Yes. Yes. And we're always, like I said before, we're always going to care what people think, but we don't have to care what everyone thinks. Like, we can't manage that.
Yeah. We don't have the capacity for all that.
Yeah. Right.
But life's too short.
Absolutely.
How do you get inspired and stay motivated?
Oh, okay. So this one's tricky because I think most people are looking for, like, I love sunsets, or, but I'm going to be really practical. There's an old Latin proverb that says, the appetite comes when eating. And that just means that you got to sit your butt down at the table. And literally, that's usually when I get the most inspired, the most driven, is when I sit down at the table and I do what I say I'm going to do. Yeah, that's it. It's not sexy.
So do you apply that to writing then too?
I do. Yeah.
So let's switch and talk about badass advice. And this is going to be more rapid fire.
Okay.
What was your turning point for accomplishing your goals and becoming a badass?
Pain. It got too painful to be like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Nice. Do you have a morning or evening routine that you can share with us? We kind of talked about the morning routine a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So we talked about that one. And then the evening one, it's kind of funny, but I do, I play Words with Friends. That is kind of like my, wind down from the day. And I usually have some hot tea or another drink or something. Yeah.
Kind of funny. I've never played Words with Friends. I've always heard of it, but never played it. List one thing you have learned from a woman in your life.
Oh gosh. My mom, I've learned to be happy from her, just see the happy things. And from Robin Brady, I learned to be kind. And I think from my daughter, I've learned to be brave. Yeah.
I love that. Can you share a habit or practice that has contributed to your success?
I think holding myself accountable. I was taught in a very rigid upbringing. And so, good or bad, that was one of the good things that came out of it.
Do you have any way that you hold yourself accountable? Like, do you have written goals, or is it just, in your head, you hold yourself accountable to what you say you're going to do?
Oh, I have written goals. I write them down probably about once a quarter, maybe even more often than that. And then I have alarms, probably like 15 on my phone, that tell me what to do every day.
Oh, I love that. So can you dive in? I know I said this is rapid fire, but I'm interested in that. Can you dive into the alarms you set on your phone?
Yeah. So I am somebody who wakes up naturally in the morning. So I don't always have an alarm on to wake up, but I do have one just in case. And then I have another alarm early in the morning that says, write 500 words. I have another alarm on my phone that says, check in with your challenges. So I have some ongoing challenges. I have a grocery alarm twice a week. I have laundry, a cleaning house, whatever things in my schedule on a regular ongoing basis. I have it on a recurring alarm just as a reminder, even if, because sometimes I won't be looking at my calendar. I won't pull out my phone to see what I have on the agenda, and I will forget the mundane things, like the little things like your people have to eat today.
I think that's so good, because I think, I used to even think that you set a goal one time and it's just going to happen, but I didn't really ever think about it again, or I didn't review them again. And that's really oftentimes not how it works. You have to have reminders, kind of like you have, to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And my calendar reminders don't work as well for me as an actual recurring alarm on my phone going off.
Yeah, I like that. So what do you wish every woman knew about confidence and overcoming obstacles?
I wish every woman knew that it's not bad to be confident. I remember being a teenager and somebody was sharing this tragic life story. And I said, oh my goodness, I'm so thankful that I was born in the family I was born in. I think I would have done just as good of a job choosing them as, what was chosen for me. And the reaction to that statement was judgment. It was like, who do you think you are? And it wasn't even I wasn't sharing this with the girl who was actually going through the tragedy. It was just kind of like a discussion of, I'm feeling so heavy, and that makes me feel so thankful for what I have. And it turned around to be this well, you must be a bitch. Are we allowed to cuss on this podcast?
Go for it.
So I just remember filtering so often throughout my adult life because of that moment, thinking that I can't be too confident because then people will think I'm a bitch,
yeah.
And you're like, oh, no, that's not a bad thing. Why did we get that message across when we were younger? We've got to turn that around, because when you are a powerful woman and you step into your own, you can be authentically yourself and gain a great deal of respect.
Yep. I think that too often people or women stand in the shadows or stand behind just to fit somebody else's perception, or they think other people want them to be, but it's not going to fill you up.
Oh, I mean, I'm guilty of it. I did it so often.
Oh, yeah.
I had to learn this lesson the hard way.
Yes. Kind of like how people always say they wish they were younger. I don't wish I was younger, because I wouldn't have learned everything that I've learned by now. It truly does take time.
Yes. I wish I didn't have so many aches, though. Well, I don't have that many yet, but my eyes are going a little. I was just at the eye doctor, and I'm like, man.
When I started running, like, my hips hurt. And I'm like, okay, that's an old person thing. Like, why would your hips hurt when you run?
I'm just going to say that's why I don't run, okay?
Yeah. So how often do you read, and can you recommend a book?
Yes, I read daily. That is one of my alarms, actually. I have 30 minutes a day scheduled out just to remind myself to read. So I'm reading 3 books currently. One is a reread, so I usually do that. If there's a good book in my life, I reread it. So the one that I'm rereading right now is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And then I'm reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. Excellent read. It's really actually upping my game in my habitual, life. And then the other one I'm reading, Stories That Stick by Kendra Hall is the other one I'm reading. Yeah. So I highly recommend all of them.
That's funny, because I always consider myself an ADD reader, or ADHD, because I'm constantly reading like 3, 4, 5 books, and it's so annoying.
I know. I usually have one going on my Kindle, and then one that I'm reading, the physical copy of, and then sometimes Audible too.
Right.
So, good number.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one. So let's end with a tip to empower women and share how the audience can connect with you.
Yes. So the tip to empower women, and really anybody, but since, we're talking to the badass women out there, I heard John Maxwell say recently that he does 5 things every day. And I told you that I kind of balk at that everyday thing, but when he said it this way, I was just like, yes, because we're not defining like 30 minutes or, an hour or 500 words or whatever that is. That's not the goal. Here's what he says. He says, I read, I think, I file, I ask questions, and wait, what's the last one? I read, write, think, file, and ask questions. Those 5 things every day, because I'm alive, right?
Right. So nice.
For me, that is an invaluable tip. Like, don't sell yourself short. Choose your 5 things. They don't have to be John Maxwell's 5 things, but choose those things. It's an everyday. I used to say I'm not an everyday kind of girl. I'm an everyday kind of girl. I want to show up for myself every day.
Right.
So, yeah. And how to get a hold of me? You can follow me. I am Shelly Snow Pordea on all platforms. That is my pen name. I use my dad's last name in there. And then you can find my website at shellysnowpordea.com. And I also just launched my new website, thecreativeyou.com. So it's the creative without the E, and just put the letter U in at the end.com, and I'll give you those direct links as well.
Love that. Great. Shelly, thank you so much for being on the show. You have been a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story. With that, we'll end our show. And to all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future Spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.